House Majority Leader Steve Scalise announced that the long-anticipated GOP border package, consisting of several bills that have been passed through the Homeland Security, Judiciary, and Foreign Affairs committees, will move to the floor for a vote in the coming weeks. According to various chairmen, this is going to address Remain in Mexico, unaccompanied minors, E-Verify, and build hundreds of miles of border wall. Mm-hmm. Are you happy with this package?
The stuff that's in it, 99% is good. A lot of it is provisions I've worked on in the past. And look, you've got things that are fixing our asylum process, the abuse of the asylum process, that's a major problem. The Remain in Mexico policy, that's a major issue. What's called the Flores settlement, which is, we can get into a complicated legal history there, but that's an origin of this problem. And of course, more resources for Border Patrol, et cetera. There's some glaring problems with this bill as it stands right now. It doesn't talk about the cartels. So the people who have operational control of the border, the people who are killing 80,000 Americans a year by trafficking fentanyl through the border, are completely unaddressed in this bill. It's something we've brought up to leadership many times over the past few months as they've gone over this. There is one provision in this bill that talks about the cartels, but it asks the Biden administration to do a study on designating them as a terrorist organization. Now that's a terrible idea for a couple of reasons. One, you're asking a Biden administration to do a study and come up with their own conclusions, and what they do with that is potentially very dangerous. You may have heard me speak out against designating the cartels as actual terrorists before. The reason being, you create an asylum claim for millions of people who are even close to these terrorist organizations. That would make our immigration crisis worse. So you're going to have a real hard time getting me to support a bill that has the potential to make our immigration crisis worse by giving the Biden administration ideas on how they could create more asylum pathways. Because let's be honest, so this bill won't get passed into law because the Senate won't take it up and Biden would never sign it. But we're putting stuff in here that would give the Biden administration ideas on how to make the immigration crisis worse. Are you crazy? And beyond that, we're not even going to address the cartels that are actually facilitating this entire border crisis. So that's a real problem. I'm not the only member who thinks that. There's still some work to do. We can easily get to yes on this, but there's got to be a couple very, very easy changes. I mean, we've got the legislation written out that can easily be inserted into this. And fix that, which basically means bigger penalties for cartels, using a lot of the same language, legal language that you would use if you did designate an organization as a terrorist organization. Legally speaking, going after their finances, going after people who aid and abet them, sanctions, things like that. There's a lot of easy things that you can do so that Americans can look at us like we're serious. Like we actually care about all the people who have been killed through fentanyl, 80,000 a year. Every district, every member has and knows somebody. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, you know somebody who's died from fentanyl. This is coming from two cartels, Sinaloa and Jalisco. And we're going to talk about a border security bill that doesn't address that? No, unacceptable.
So with the package as is, are you going to vote no?
Yeah, it's not good right now.
Okay.
I'm not well. I cannot take a border bill seriously that doesn't address the cartels. This is an easy fix, though. Like, we'll get to yes.
Okay. What has been the response from leadership when you bring up this concern?
Well, they act surprised, even though we've been talking about it for months. You know, as I recall, I think the president of Mexico threatened me because specifically for talking about the cartels. So they don't get to act surprised. At the staff level, we've brought this up for months. We've told them what our priorities are when it comes to the border bill. I'm not like alone on an anthill here. There's a lot of members who are with me on this. The solutions are very easy, frankly. So look, you know me. I'm not one of these people who just tries to muck things up. Right? But I am very concerned about policy. And when it comes to saving Americans' lives from the fentanyl crisis, I am deadly serious. And so, and to be clear, I'm not even talking about the authorized use of military force. I think that's a separate path. That's a separate from this bill. That's a separate effort that I actually really want to work with Democrats on. So I actually want to keep it out of this bill. So what I'm talking about is very simple legal language that, like I said, increases penalties, allows for more sanctions, goes after their finances. Kind of your typical increase in law enforcement against criminal cartels.
So just cracking down on
cracking
these
down on
penalties.
them. Exactly. There's nothing in the bill right now that does anything even remotely close to that, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
And if that was included,
that was included, but you got to take this other problematic language out. This study about a FTO designation, foreign terrorist organization designation, again, for the reasons I stated, that has the potential side effect, not potential, I mean a very clear side effect of creating a pathway to legal asylum for millions more people, which would make our asylum process even more backlogged and our immigration crisis even worse. You know, I've been saying that over and over again on the news, in public. There's a lot of legal experts that agree with that. I mean, our own committee experts here agree with that. You cannot give the Biden administration that out. You can't give them that idea. That's crazy. We've got to be responsible in how we legislate. We've got to think through second and third order consequences. Like, we all want the same thing, and so we'll get there. I mean, it's a process. Like, I think we'll get there. I'm frustrated that a lot of members like myself who have been really on the front lines of this issue for years, we just weren't really consulted. We're just excluded from the process. Just like, okay, it's out of committee, here you go. That's not a way to do business. I thought we were promised something different. So the conversations they'll move forward. I think we'll get to the right place. But yeah, as it stands now, I don't see how anyone can support a border bill that doesn't talk about the cartels. That's crazy.
You mentioned not necessarily being consulted. You're a representative from Texas that, deals with the border in your home district. Do you know if many Texas or other border state representatives were consulted in the making of these bills?
Only the ones who made noise and threatened leadership, and so that's unfortunately what they're responding to. So I've always been a friend. I've always been somebody that just does it the right way and comes up with the good ideas, actually does the hard work, writes the legislation, works for the conference, and actually those are the kind of people they tend to ignore. And so unfortunately that's the lesson we've learned here. And so look, I'm telling them very clearly, you've got to address the cartels in this bill. I'm not saying through authorized use of military force. I'm not going there, right? Because I know how sticky that one is. I'm saying through what is more of a non-controversial way that actually puts teeth, legal action, cracks down on cartel action, increases penalties on cartel members, does a whole number of things. It's a bill that has many co-sponsors. It's been introduced for a while. We can make this work, right? Because everything else in this bill that deals with all of these other issues that we talked about, it's good. It's good stuff. It's stuff we've been working on for a long time. There's just this small problem, but it's not a small problem. It's a big problem.